Welcome to the Come Ride With Me podcast. I am your host, Anna Fox, and I advocate for deeply loving equestrians who want a better space for humans and horses. Here, the bond between riders and their equine companions reigns supreme. Simplifying the complexities of the riding world, we focus on less is more and break through the muck and mire of lesson lingo. Embrace the power of being present to nurture emotionally stable equine partners while you become an astute equestrian who rides with feel. Embark on this odyssey with me as we shatter antiquated norms and forge a path towards a future of enlightened horsemanship. So, what are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Hey horse fiends, Anna Fox with Equus Enlightened, and got another episode of Come Ride With Me for you. Here today with my buddy Ebo and the birds. The birds are quite active today, so if you hear a lot of bird noise, that's why. Sorry. So I've been talking a lot about play for about the last month and kind of keeping a playful attitude, and how do we do that? Horses and humans both learn better that way. And part of being playful is being engaged. And for instance, right now, Ebo is engaged in whatever he thinks is over that way. And I thought about this. I was actually making a social media post, and one of, I would say, the top comments I've ever seen on dressage tests needs more engagement. And everyone always assumes that this means more forward, more energy, right? More impulsion. But that actually, engagement, the actual word engagement has no definition relating to energy. And if you look up in the USEF rulebook in the dressage section, there's actually nowhere where it equates impulsion to engagement. They do talk about in several movements the engagement of the inside hind leg, but it's not actually specifically related to energy. So we have to remember that all of these rule books, explanations of the movements and things like that are all interpretations of text that was written hundreds of years ago. And you can actually Google a lot of it and find out, what section of a rule book this actual text came from, and sort of how it got broken down into a rule book for a governing body. And the fact that these are all translations means that there's always going to be something lost in the translation, right? Are we misinterpreting the word engagement, right? And I think that we are. I think more engagement needs to be more engagement from our horses, more of that playful attitude between the two, more of a conversational attitude, and not just the energy. Now, to have a horse that's willing to be energetic for you in a way that you can use and mold and shape the energy, they have to be engaged, right? Because you can have a horse that has a lot of energy but is not engaged. And I have seen that comment on the test of people who are riding a high energy horse, but they're still not quite getting the engagement. And a judge will write that, and then they're usually really confused. Why do I need more engagement? My horse is a nutter, right? He's all over the place. So engagement doesn't necessarily mean forward. Now we would have to, I guess, ask the individual judges if that's what they actually meant by the word engagement. But to me, I think engagement means more involvement, more participation, more readiness, more willingness to do. Just like kids on a playground, right? If one of them is not engaged in a game, you can always tell which one that is, or two, whatever. But if they're actually playing and they're using a playful mindset, they're engaged. They're very engaged into what's going on. And a lot of times with our dressage horses, actually I would say with all of our sport horses, and probably with a lot of pleasure horses too, but we get into this thing where we're trying to do too many things at once when we're riding without having the foundational things really good. And then what happens is that the horses just start to tune us out. They're not engaged with us anymore. They're not having a conversation. They're just going around like, okay, I'm doing what I think you might want me to do, but I'm not really sure and then they just sort of tune us out, and they get dull to the aids. And we talked a little bit about that in the podcast episode about creating a freely forward horse and actually being light with your aids and how you train that. And that is a big part for me for engagement. And also asking the question and giving your horse time to respond. And sometimes it even means giving yourself a chance to formulate a question or to take in the information your horse is giving you and then ask another question. Right now, Ebo is pretty engaged in helping me with the weeds in the arena, which is fine because the rain here has been crazy, and keeping the weeds out of the arena is sort of like a losing battle. But so I wanted to today just show you some little tricks about how I like to create engagement. And this is a really can be an easy process. And I think it should also be done slowly in the beginning. Like, you want to create the engagement, halt, walk, backups, like where you really feel safe within the energy and where your horse feels safe and your horse doesn't feel like they're going to lose their balance. Because if we're talking about dressage and we want to have a horse that is round in self-carriage, the horse needs to be relaxed, energized, and balanced. And yes, we need them all at the same time, but we don't teach them all at the same time. And to ask your horse to be relaxed, energized, or balanced at any given moment, you need to have engagement. You need to be able to ask a question. Ebo here, came from somewhere where he was, pretty micromanaged. He would kind of tune you out. He was used to his owner doing a lot of kicking to try and get him to go and things like that. And so that's sort of his default, is to just kind of tune you out. But we've taught him to be more engaged, and sometimes he struggles with relaxation. Wow, he can be a little bit spooky on occasion. He's a pretty well-balanced horse when all of those things are working, so that's not his biggest issue. But asking him for energy and then having him remain relaxed if he's not comfortable in an environment would be his two biggest things. So we're just going to play today, and I want to show you a little about how you can create this feeling of relaxation, energy, and balance, and start to get really good at those three parts before you go into doing more things. And this isn't if you're already working on dressage, you're already showing at a certain level or whatever. This doesn't mean you have to stop doing any of that. You can do these little things when you're in your walking warm-up. You can do them on days that you want to switch up your training, because we don't want to do too many days of the same thing. Horses get bored. So this is all stuff you can integrate into any program that you're currently working, and just start to see how it changes the way your horse thinks about going and the way you think about it. Because we also have to be engaged. We have to be aware of our body. We have to be aware of the horse's body. We have to be able to think about what's happening and formulate a question to ask the horse. We also have to be able to allow the horse to answer And then we have to go take that data and go, okay, do I need to ask another question, or do I need to back off and work on something else? Like, there's a lot of engagement from the rider's mind that needs to be happening too. And maybe that's what our judges are sometimes saying. Maybe they're saying we're not engaged enough. That would not surprise me. So really just breaking it down and keeping it super simple. Okay, so I am going to play with how does Ebo feel about those three things: relaxation, energy, and balance. And then how is his engagement? And what I'll do is I'll kind of talk you through my engagement, right? What am I thinking as this is going on? So let's see. A little sluggish. And then here a little balance challenge, because he wants to go over there towards the barn. So notice I went ahead and I kind of corrected the shoulder, but I didn't increase his energy level right there because I'm trying to work on one thing at a time. Okay. So now I'm going to say, if I increase my energy, can you go? A little bit. What about now? What about, yeah, there you go. Now he's increasing it when I ask him to, but he's not really holding it. So he's not really engaged in this game of maintaining the energy right now. Okay. So Ebo's moving a little bit when I ask him to, but is he like really engaged with me and into maintaining the energy? So yeah, even though he was looking at a squirrel on the fence over there, but when I asked him, he said, oh yeah, I can do that. So that means he's engaged with me. And I saw the squirrel was there, and I thought, let me check, see if I can ask him a question while he's doing that. And yeah, I can. So what else do I notice while I'm walking around? He's pretty relaxed right now, right? And our energy's okay. So balance is the next thing. And what I notice with him is that he tends to be a little bit heavier on the right side, the right shoulder. So, first thing is that my problem? You can see me from the back right now. Am I sitting off to one direction or the other? I could be, and maybe I'm not noticing it. So usually I'm gonna like give myself a little position check, see what happens. But I notice as we come around that corner, he tends to push the right shoulder in, right? So right now, I asked him to correct it, and that slowed him down. So now, I'm gonna ask him, can you go again? Can you go? Can you go? And he wasn't really sure, so I gave him a little tap. You can go a little trot. Yeah, or a little canter. Good boy. But that right there tells me that he's engaged. He's back in the game. He knows what I'm talking about, and he's like, oh, okay, I know this. So again, if I'm a little bit to the right, so I use more my body language that time, right? Just a little right leg and a little twist of my body. Say, oh, could you get off that right shoulder a little bit? And he says, yeah, I could, and I could canter too. Perfect. Like, that's what I want, right? That's what I want. Good boy. But again, like right now, got a little energized and I got a little heavy on that right shoulder again. So can I ask him? Good boy. To get off the right shoulder. Now, it's fine. I didn't really ask him to canter. I asked him to get off the right shoulder. But to canter, he's got to get off his inside shoulder. So he's doing the thing, and he's actively thinking about what I want. Now, he may not always be giving me the right answer that I think I want, but he's giving me information. He's saying, is this what you want? So what I can do is now I can ask, and I say, oh, not quite what I want. I can use my rein a little bit and say, oh, no, you don't have to canter. I just really want you to be a little straighter on that right shoulder. And then if we change direction, you are a hoot today. And this is quite funny because, like I said, normally he is a bit of an energy conservationist and is not completely engaged with a forward-thinking mindset. But we have spent a lot of time on being light and getting him light to the aids. So now I'm going to let him walk a little bit in this direction, see what I notice. Now the barn's over there too, so to the right, so that would totally even play into, there you go, a little bit of him wanting to lean over there. So I just corrected the shoulder, right? I just said, oh, could you? And he's like, yeah, and then I could maybe walk on top of the cavaletti. Let's not do that. So I'm not sure if Pivo is going to track us today. I don't know what it's doing, but we might just have to work in a small area. But we already established that Evo was thinking forward. He's pretty relaxed. And so now we're going to go a little bit to the left and see how the balance challenge plays out there. Is he going to want to lean outside on the right shoulder? And the barn's also that way. So that is, more of an incentive for him, really. When I asked him to correct, he's correcting, but what he's not doing now is he's not going forward. So see, he lost that. When I asked him to do something, he lost the energy. He lost that engagement to what I was asking him as far as being forward. So now, let's see if I can reestablish that. There you go. Good. And usually if I need to reestablish something like that, I'm going to try it 3 times and see how we go. See if it gets better with each time. And it did there. So very good. We got that back. And he was actually pretty balanced throughout me asking him that. He wasn't falling out too much. So I'm cutting this episode short because Pivo was not cooperating. So for those of you watching the video, it gets really choppy and a mess. So I'm just going to cut it off. We'll pick up next time, creating that relaxation, energy, and balance, and doing it with the lightest aids possible. Because very often we are doing too much. And that is why I like to do this with a relaxed posture and on a long rein. If you have a horse that you need to monitor their speed a little bit, and or you just feel more comfortable with the rein contact, then feel free to use whatever length rein you feel like is best. But I would encourage you to try and make that longer as you go along. Our hands do a lot of talking, even when we don't know they're talking. And we also have to remember that the mouth is a very sensitive place on the horse. And so anytime we're interacting with the bit, we're creating an emotional response in the horse. If you think that you don't feel like you can see me doing a lot, that is the point. I'm playing with the energy, my own energy, my horse's energy. I'm playing with really subtle movements for a reason, because that's how I want to be able to ride my horses. So you have to play with it so you can learn what works for you, and also your horse can learn how to respond in a lighter way. Oh, before you go, please remember to rate, review, and share this pod so others can find it. Thank you for listening to another episode of Come Ride With Me.
My vision is to inspire riders to embrace the beauty of simplicity and mindfulness in the saddle. I appreciate your joining me on this journey to harmony and understanding with your equine partner. If you'd like to learn more about what I do at Equus Enlightened, you can find me at equisenlightened.net or on patreon.com/equisenlightened. You can also find me on social media as Equus Enlightened. I will put all the links in the show notes. And until next time, happy riding!